What's going on, guys? Rich Butler here. Thanks for hitting the download button to enjoy a brand new episode of Toys and Tech of the Trade, your one-stop shop for toys, tech, and talk with some assembly required. Before we get into the guest for this week, a little bit of housekeeping. As I mentioned in the last two episodes, I believe, sometimes short-term memory loss as you get older takes its toll. We're going to be releasing every second Tuesday, so every 2 weeks, but on Tuesdays, of course. We'll be releasing new episodes of Toys and Tech of the Trade. We got a lot of great guests on deck in the coming weeks, so we look forward to sharing their stories with you. If you're in the New York City area and plan on attending Toy Fair, we will be there. Myself and Jimbo Slice will be there Saturday the 16th, Sunday the 17th, and Monday the 18th. We'll be on the show floor, taking some meetings, sharing some toys with our audience. But if you're a fellow toy enthusiast and are working the event, covering the event, or in the industry, and you want to meet face-to-face, shake hands, chat it up a little bit, feel free to reach out via social media. Of course, you can find us on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, whatever medium of choice, or good old email is still good. So if you're going to be there, definitely feel free to reach out, and we'll always be glad to sit down and chat in between the occasional meeting, because if you're at Toy Fair, that's all it is usually, meeting after meeting after meeting. Speaking of Toy Fair, my guest for this episode, Jonathan Cathey, is the founder and CEO of The Loyal Subjects. The Loyal Subjects is an action vinyl company. Now, of course, when you hear vinyls, the first thing that comes to mind are blind boxes and Funko, but The Loyal Subjects is a little different in that they are an action figure type of vinyl figure, meaning that, or action vinyl, as Jonathan, so eloquently phrased, action vinyl, allowing you to have full posability with arms, with the arms and the legs, and you get a bunch of awesome accessories. What got my attention from, with the Loyal Subjects is that they had a lot of awesome licenses of brands that I remember growing up as a kid: Masters of the Universe, Thundercats, WWE and WWF action vinyls. They're incredibly detailed, super, super cool just to have on a desk. And like I said, the wealth of licenses, besides the ones I just mentioned, are very, very cool. And Jonathan and I discuss their recent partnership with Bandai. We're going to get into that. But more importantly, we talk about the journey that he went through as an entrepreneur, starting the Loyal Subjects in 2009 with just $500 and growing it into a very, very successful company in such a short amount of time. And even though, it's 10 years, it's still a short amount of time, because there's still some people on the grind still trying to get to even the smallest part of that success. So I appreciate Jonathan taking the time to share his story, and I hope you guys not only draw some inspiration from it, but can definitely find some actionable information from it as well. Without any further ado, I'm going to turn it over to Jonathan so he can share the toys and tech of his trade. All right, my guest for this week's episode of Toys and Tech of the Trade is Jonathan Cathey. He is the founder of the Loyal Subjects action vinyl company, who just recently signed a massive deal with Bandai. We're going to get into, obviously, the toys and the tech of his trade, the origin of the company, and much more. Jonathan, thanks for taking time out of your busy schedule to sit down and chat with us.
Hey, man, thank you. I appreciate it.
So one of the things during the research for this interview, and just from meeting representatives at your company at Toy Fair, is the fact that, a lot of people know about the vinyl market, they know about the blind box market, but the Loyal Subjects does something completely different in the sense that you guys have created your own niche, the action vinyl market. For those not familiar, what does that entail, and what made you guys decide to go in that direction versus the conventional blind box model?
Action vinyls, it was essentially that is a proprietary format that I created for the little subjects. Essentially, that sort of combine the hyper detail aesthetics, really clean tampo prints, and stylization of like a sort of artwork designer vinyl, a segment of the industry that we came from. And then the action part was the articulation, the features, the accessories, collector cards, essentially hybriding it to an action figure. And so or the reasons why we wanted to do that is, just taking a big roto bulb and tampering it 20 which ways to Saturday was no longer exciting. I wanted to do something that was visceral, something that was kinetic, something that was more engaging, would stay in customers' hands that you could play with. There were a lot of companies that are just like, they're really offering display, and the little subjects were unique where they're offering play. I mean, we were one of the only companies doing a play pattern for a 30-year-old collector, because people had sort of abandoned the idea that, adults like to play, adults like to use their imagination. And we sort of bucked that theory by saying, no, they don't. It's if you get those imagination wheels spinning, it's, the products are much more engaging. It's more fun, and it's good to connect to that side of yourself, not completely abandon it. So we thought we came up with a good format that had a low barrier of entry, didn't cost too much, and you could sort of recreate the toy box and the sandbox, blanket fort vibes that you had when you're a kid, but as an adult, sort of those nostalgia wheels start flying back at you at Mach speed. And I think that's been our contribution. I think that's what's made us pretty unique in the market, where there's a lot of collectibles, but some of them at high price points, $60 to $300, and
yep,
they're behind glass like museum pieces, and all you can do is look at them. Or on the other side, let's say with our other competitors, where it's turn them out quick, skin them, 2,000 different stickers, and they sort of just sit on a shelf and you stare at them. They're not engaging. So we wanted to build a figure form that was engaging, that you can become your own writer, director, producer, in your own sort of like fantasy throwback to when you're 10. Where we're just a ditch in your backyard becomes an entire world.
I think that's a good way to put it. The interesting thing about your start is that your success story is the success story of many people, where you start with money out of pocket. In your case, you guys started with a $500 personal check, and you went from there. And the thing about it is that so many people are in similar boats. In your case, did you have any previous experience in this market? Did you do everything kind of learn as you go, especially with like early designs, etc.? How did you do that with the first designs and getting that done? And prototypes, for instance.
Well, I was, I'm a creative naturally. Business came second. Creative comes naturally. So, if you give me an instrument, I can play you a tune, kind of thing. If you give me pencils and paintbrushes, I can paint you a picture, or illustrate illustrate something dynamic. So that's always been my sort of wheelhouse as far as my abilities. And then I really had to work hard at the business side, which is extremely, extremely complex, especially in the toy industry. But it was, it's just a mixture of, 1,000 times falling on your face and just picking yourself back up. And each time it goes thud and your nose starts bleeding, you remind yourself not to do that again. But I had some experience in art and design. I was actually a creator before, doing licensed products. I'd created a silly sort of property called the Mullet Heads. A bunch of these characters had mullets and funny stories, and ended up selling it to MTV at one point. And then that's kind of how I dipped my toe into the toy industry.
I see.
I think with those, we were maybe one of the first 10, 15 products ever sold on Kid Robot. back at the real genesis of Kid Robot. So I'd been in and around that scene for a while, a contributor to it, and then I'd kind of taken my knowledge of, design, fabrication, manufacturing, and then applied it to licensed product, and then head down. I don't think I looked up for a good 8 years, in the office, 12 to 14 hours, 6 to 7 days a week. And,
Now, this was a regular day job that you had in addition to this to fund your dream? Regular 9 to 5?
No, actually, when I was doing the mullet heads, I remember the last time that I had to take an actual job. I was production assisting. Believe it or not, I was a production assisting on a promo, which was James Franco's big break when he played James Dean.
Oh man,
yeah. That was really kind of the last job I ever had.
Wow.
So that was
hell of a job to have.
And I remember there was a lot of buzz about Franco, and he was there, and he was just a young kid, and that was his first big role that he booked, was like a TBS movie, the biopic about James. But I had done some consulting work for other people. I was a creative director for a while too. Well, I guess when I say last job, I mean bartender /
right.
Really, really humping it kind of thing. But I was a creative director for a company for a little bit. And then I had a little bit of savings, did this. I had to do a few consulting jobs while the first project came through. And they're just so fortunate the first project actually sold out, funded the company, was able to take a little draw, pay the rent, pay the electric, that kind of thing. And then
pay yourself last.
Yeah, exactly. And then just grew it from there. And we had about 4 or 5 consecutive projects sold out. And it started happening.
That's the way that, that small ideas turn into juggernauts. I mean, it doesn't get any better than that. Now, you were doing a lot of the roto molding, excuse me. You guys dealt with did you go to China to see that firsthand?
Yeah, I've been to China over 70 times. I probably spend there about 3 months out of the year there.
Wow.
So yeah, at this point, I'm very well versed on all aspects of manufacture. When we started maybe doing some of the rotobulb stuff, it's, they're rotopots. It's not that complicated. There's the construction's very easy, just mushroom plugs, top and bottoms. And then tampo is just tampo alignment. So it's not terribly complex. You still need to know what you're doing. You need to know who you're working with and who your suppliers are. You need to know how to build the pots and your tool plans and your connecting points. I mean, you still have to have a full fabrication knowledge to do it well. But yeah, we started doing it with a lot of roto. I mean, the first thing we ever did was just a straight out injection, an injection piece. It's really just, large injection molds, large injection machine, big steel housing plates with the tools inside, just shooting it with, plastic pressure that could puncture a hole in the wall of your house. But I did move from that to roto, not because of any convenience. It's more convenient, or it's more quick as far as production process to do injection. But roto had kind of a look and feel. It was smooth. Roto's not porous. The tampo is really clean because the surface is really smooth, and it kind of lent itself to that designer look that was more print driven than sculpt driven.
Okay. Now, you were providing the designs, you were doing, in other words, you were sketching them out and then going to the plant and saying, okay, this is how it's going to be. This is how I want the connection points to be. This is where I want the action mechanics to be for a particular figure, accessories, etc. Did you sketch that out yourself, or did you partner with an artist to do the sketching? I know you're a creative, but I know there's only so much that one person can do.
Yeah, believe it or not, in the beginning, you kind of do everything, the packaging, the photos, all of it. It's, it's kind of absurd. But yeah, if it was on the roto stuff, we'd work with artists, like local guys that were, had a little following. They're kind of pop surrealist artists, and they're people that we know. But yeah, as far as the construction goes, we knew how to make these, these I call them totems. They're more totems than anything. And I'd be in Asia frequently, 4 to 6 times a year, essentially, working on these projects. But yeah, some of them I've done the turnarounds for and collaborated on the projects. There's a few of the designer vinyl ones that we've put out where I actually did the turns on them. So it could be anything, like for the action vinyls, those origins and concepts were originally done by me, and then the tooling plans, obviously in collaboration with the engineers over in China. Yeah, we work with a number of sort of control artists or sculptors and designers and graphic artists now, that help bring this whole thing into a working product, or into a design product, a concept product that we then go out and build the tools for. And that's a whole separate process in itself. Design's only one part of it. The construction is the tricky part.
How did you overcome things like, time difference, language barrier? Clearly you weren't sleeping, because obviously the time difference, especially if you have to review proofs, etc. How did you overcome that? Did you have a point person over there that kind of helped with that? Did you have to, learn Chinese next? How did that work?
Yeah, it's kind of funny. I was telling my girlfriend, she was with me. I just got back about a week ago. I was out there for Hong Kong Toy Fair, and I told her, it's like, you're kind of seeing everybody come from the States dropping like flies while we're out there. Everybody's looking like, 20 minutes to hell, baggy eyes, dragging, hardly hanging in there. And I used to say, it's like, yeah, when I come over here, I always thought it was like some sort of attention problem I had, because I'll get here and I'd be tired. I was young. I was in my 20s. So, and then I had to hit the ground running. There was no time for rest. It's like, you get there, you sleep, you wake up early, you're on the train to mainland China, and then you're working in factories all day. And, I'd hit these walls sometimes, and I would just push through them all the time. You just end up working like 5-6 days straight, 14-hour days.
Wow.
And it didn't dawn on me until later that, wow, that was pretty hard. That was actually, it was supposed to be hard.
Right, absolutely. The juice has to be worth the squeeze, man.
Yeah, I thought it was really, me having, as I was kind of like fading out of consciousness at times, thinking, there was a problem with me, but no, I was just really pedal to the metal going through this, the time change and the whole thing. But yeah, there's the operatives we work with, there's some that know some English, and and a lot that don't. I knew I'd spent a lot of time there when I started saying phrases in Cantonese.
Wow.
I'd just be sitting there and I'd order something in Cantonese, and I'd be like, "Oh my God, I can't believe I did that."
And this was just because you were absorbing it, right? It wasn't even because you were consciously sitting there like trying to teach yourself, right?
No, yeah, just being out with people. Yeah, just having been there so many times at one point. You sort of pick up Cantonese and phrases. Very hard language. It's got 6 tones, so it doesn't mean I say everything right. I could say dan, which is egg, but the person who I'm saying it to is looking at me like they have no idea what I'm saying. I'm saying dan, and they're like, no, dan. So
right.
It's like that tone inflection means a lot. It sounds the same to me, but to them, I might as well be saying, bloobity bloobity boop.
That's crazy. That's crazy.
So it's a very artful tone language, and it's hard to pick up, but I've been there so much and spent so many times with nationals that you pick up a little manus along the way.
You were talking about that you did Hong Kong Toy Fair. How's that experience versus a toy fair here in the States?
It's very different. It's a Hong Kong Toy Fair for a lot of the companies. They're in showrooms. They're like hotels or office buildings on the Kowloon side. Small spaces in these sort of office malls. It's bizarre.
It's like CES more so than regular Toy Fair then.
I think CES is probably really grandiose because
Wow.
those hotels are in the
Yeah.
Mandalay Bay and things like that. I mean, you're talking about the Shangri-La in Kowloon and these sort of like old school Chinese places. But in the convention center over in Wan Chai, I think is it Wan Chai or Central, whatever the convention center is at. I really don't go there. I've only been to the convention center one time over there. I'm usually in the showrooms or the office buildings. But the convention center is unique as it's really Chinese inventors. It's like all the factories invent the new thing. This is how things like, like Hatchimals and fingerlings and all that stuff comes into play. It's
Really?
there's I don't know particular
No, of course.
Those products could have been made in house, but there's things like that in the Dongguan province. Factories come out and they kind of showcase their new inventions, and they find partners to skin them or do a twist or a take on them. It's a lot of things that are flying around and beeping and booping and doing backflips. It's a lot of that kind of stuff.
How were you accounting for? And I only ask because it's such a heavy thing in certain areas of China. The counterfeit market. Were you concerned at all when you started your company in its infancy with regards to somebody's going to come out with their own and it's
I was concerned about selling something here.
Oh yeah, I mean that goes without saying.
When people buy it, that's the only thing I was concerned about. Counterfeiting or bootlegging was the last thing on it.
Really? Okay.
Yeah, since the popularity of action vinyls as our audience, as we call the TLS Army, as that sort of it has grown and the 10 is growing every day. There are legitimate counterfeits out there.
That's crazy. Have you come across them and
they're
say
illegitimate?
Have you looked at them and said, you look at the counterfeit and go, wow, that's pretty damn good considering? Have you run into that?
No. I mean, I've actually picked up a few, night market in Mongkok and things like that. They fall apart. They're not well made.
Yep, you know the deal.
Yeah, they're cheap, but it is, I think it's one of the issues that for us it's probably small, like something like Transformers or in some big properties. It's like a real deal. The
Transformers market is crazy. I mean, as somebody who collects Transformers on and off since my childhood, like sometimes you'll see one and it'll be like, Iron Wing X and it's supposed to be like Starscream and you're like, wow, that looks really good. But that it's it's not the real deal. So many companies have come so far with that sometimes it just blows my mind that they're just not doing their own thing because they've sharpened their teeth, so to speak, doing replicas or off-brand.
Yeah. There's that whole third-party Transformer market it's a real legitimate collector culture.
Yep.
And they buy them as with much passion as the original stuff or the Tomy masterpieces stuff. But yeah, it's a real deal for a company like the Little Subjects as we grow. I mean, we've sold millions of toys, so or collectibles to this point. It will be an issue, I'm sure. And you try to do your best to do whack-a-mole. You certainly don't encourage it.
Oh, absolutely not. But you try to quell it where you can.
Yeah, it's difficult. I mean, it's also the manufacturing relationships are 8,000 miles away, so it is that there's an added complexity to that as well.
So before we get into the growth of your company, I want to ask, when you sold that first wave and that first check cleared, so to speak, how did that feel? I mean, where were you at emotionally at that point? Were you nervous going in? Were you like, oh man, I don't know how this is gonna do? How did you track what you were selling, and then how did you calculate or determine, like, oh my God, we sold everything and we made a profit?
It's weird. I have a problem of not stopping to smell the roses, and I'm gonna have to figure that out eventually.
Damn, I'm there, man. I'm with you.
Yeah, I just kind of, you get to a place, you set and you go and you just drive. You just keep going. So it's a problem. I should probably stop and smell the roses once in a while. But I don't think I don't think I ever thought about it. I thought I always had the goal in mind of, hey, I believe in this product. There's a reason for it to exist. I believe what we're doing, and I believe in my brand, and I believe in this brand experience, and then driving that. So in that, I think maybe in the initial, the first, let's say, year or two of the little subjects, there's probably maybe doubt, like, hey, is this, how long is this going to last or whatever? It's with year one, year two, it's not like I came into it with a business plan and, $500,000 in investment capital. It was just, a personal check, a living room, a garage, things like that. So when, I'm not even sure that I had a plan. I knew that the step we're making, I liked, and then I had a motivation to sell it, but that was, and then within, I think that first 2 years really started kind of figuring out, okay, what do I want to do? I mean, even that 2 years, I was considering, making the little subjects kind of like a tastemaker marketing arm as well. So there was just kind of playing with the idea until really kind of seeing the light of, even kind of walking away from a lot of the designer vinyl things and going, okay, this is what I want to do. I want to make this into a legitimate toy box experience. Like I want to create a company that my 10-year-old self would do backflips for.
Wow.
And then at that point in time, you really turn the corner, and really sort of focused. But I don't think I've really ever looked back or looked into. I'm usually I dive in.
You're like the shark
first. Yeah.
Like the shark, always moving forward, because if you stop, you die.
There you go, man. And also, like, as far as, I've never really sort of weighed or litigated the risk aspect. It's just,
wow.
Hey, I did that with music. I've kind of done that with everything. It's like, okay, I want to do that. Fine, cool. If I had a logical part of my brain, everybody would say, no, that's a bad idea. But I lack that logic, I guess. And so, I think that's what makes me an entrepreneur, because I think entrepreneurs don't have that component in their brains.
No.
They're just, they're diving first, ask questions later.
Did you experience at any point, when you were, for instance, just mentioning this to people, did you experience any, not pushback, but just people like, I don't know if you want to go in that direction, or did you have a more supportive network? And I say this because, again, the toy industry, everybody thinks that, they watch a couple of episodes of The Toys That Made Us on Netflix and they automatically know, they know how the game is played. But
well, the big game, especially when you go to mass, you're dealing with companies that are publicly, held companies, and companies that have, private equity money and $250 million and greater. And it's a very competitive, cutthroat world. The licensing is cutthroat because, the big titles are controlled by, the top three companies, and, they don't want competition. They're taking away from their core products. So it is, once you get to like the big boy game, it's nuts. There's a lot of boxing gloves in that game. But as far as, like, let's say friends and family, or no, believe it or not, the majority of my friends are musicians.
Oh, so man, so you totally out of left field for them. They're like, okay, you want to do that?
Yeah, they had no idea what the hell I was up to.
Gotcha.
Yeah, they're, to them it was. To them, when they start seeing it, they're like, "Oh, dude, that's cool." Like, that's pretty cool. but they're interested in guitars and drums and playing shows and touring and making records and things like that. And, then I have other friends who are, fine artists and painters and things like that. I think they thought it was cool. It was neat. It was different, and eventually when you could start seeing this thing grow, and there was an actual public appetite, and there was, these pods of cultures developing around the brand that kind of gave the brand a lift. I think at that point, those people could actually look into it and say, oh, okay, cool. Now I see what you were doing.
Okay. Now,
Yeah.
now you know, when it came to securing,
I was a toy outsider, essentially.
That's a good way to look at it.
I wasn't buddy with anybody in the industry, tell you that.
Yeah, so basically you came in there and you kind of just carved your own way because it was like you were saying before, it was just in your nature. There was no, hey, you know, I knew this guy from, you know, Mattel and he said, yeah, you know, do this. No, you had none of that. It was just you by the seat of your pants.
I had zero. I never consulted with one person in the industry ever.
That's insane, man. I applaud that. Much respect.
I never met anybody from the industry. I mean, I think I had a roommate. His mom worked at Mattel and did like the strawberry shortcake.
Okay,
but that conversation never went as far as, oh, my mom worked at Mattel and did strawberry shortcake.
That's about it. It came and went.
So it's like, I mean, if you live in LA, you know, Mattel has employed a lot of people. So it's, you know, I mean, tens of thousands of people. So if you live in LA, there's a good shot that someone either works in the movie industry or has worked for Mattel, believe it or not, or Disney. You know,
that's pretty wild.
So that net goes pretty wide. But, you know, just looking back, no, we really didn't know anybody. I mean, I knew like Spike from Spike and Mike Sick and Twisted, Spike Decker. I knew him. You know, that's about as far as it went. I knew this kind of funky animation enthusiast guy down in San Diego. And I knew a girl from Otis who was a sculptor and who knew a manufacturer. And that was it, you know. But it's, you know, if I looked at my LinkedIn every time I'm linked in with a lot of, you know, guys that are, you know, presidents or CEOs of toy companies, large ones. And they all seem to have sort of like natively come from that industry. I would view myself more of an outsider of, you know, and I think we create in a bubble like that. We're just really not influenced by other companies. We kind of do our own thing.
Well, that's good too, because you don't want to get, you know, the accidental inspiration, I like to call it, where, you know, like you're around a buddy of yours and he uses like a phrase and then, you know, a month later you're using the same phrase and you're like, how the hell did I start doing that?
Yeah, totally. I mean, I do have that. I'm from Laguna Beach originally. So, you know, I definitely have sort of the surf skate language for sure.
Right.
It's like embedded in me since age 10. I can't shake it to save my life. But as far as like the industry and toy industry, I knew no one. I really didn't. You know, I still don't know if I really do. I mean, I know these guys that are owners of other companies and CEOs and things like that. But,
right.
You know.
But that's just because you're in the same space, not because you consciously, which is, you know, it's like association. Like, oh, yeah, I know that guy. I've seen him at a trade show or two. Or, hey, yeah, I've seen him around the show floor. Like, that's about it.
It's kind of like that. Yeah. You know, it's like, you know, it's, if I'm hanging out on my own and I'm usually, you know, playing music or, you know, finding the inspiration to draw and paint or write or reading books and things like that. So it's, you know, it is, I do kind of come at it with a bit of a different swing, I guess.
Nothing wrong with that. Sometimes the different approach might be what sets you apart from everybody else and is a key to your success. And so far, I think that's been a big part of it.
Yeah. You know, it's funny. It's there's some like these, you know, a couple of these streetwear culture guys had come to the office not too long ago and, you know, talking about Halo projects and making things cool. And I told them, it's like, you know, dude, I'm not concerned with being cool. Like, you either are or you're not. I don't know if I am or if I'm not, you know. I could be totally uncool. So, and the point being is you just got to do you. That's it. Whoever you are, that's what you got to do.
At the end of the day, I think that's the best narrative in there, which leads me into my next question. You know, you guys went to secure financing from an equity firm, and you were already kind of had the company rolling along. How did you approach that? How do you present something like that to a company like this? Did you know, what went into it? How did you prep, you know?
Well, yeah, bringing a private equity into your company, it's difficult because you have to be at a place where, you know, an investment is a, let's say, you have to be able to offer something for investors to come in. It can't just be an idea. There's got to be proof of concept. There has to be money. There's, that's already tracking through the business. The business already has to be in pretty good shape. Obviously, growth trajectory. And the investors can see that, hey, this is, if we invest in this, we could really motivate it and push it to the next level, and our investments will pay off. So you have to have all those bases kind of covered. So we've done exceptionally, maybe exceptionally, maybe who knows, but I think pretty good, just on our own accord with that $500 check. You know what I mean? And we got pretty far. Revenue was good, sales were good, customers, there were more stores interested in the loyal subjects. We had opened up Target independently without any investment. How'd
that go? How'd that approach go? Because Target, it's interesting. I've watched the evolution of Target become, from just a company with a toy aisle to a company having exclusives to a company having, dedicated collector areas. I went in there recently and they were selling like NECA stuff, and I'm like, what the hell? Am I in the right place? Like, it was so weird.
Yeah, no, and that's more Darwinism than anything. So it's like, CDs and DVDs and electronics as a sales, or they're just becoming obsolete, period, or the sales are declining in some of those segments, like Circuit City's not around anymore. So as soon as they start clearing that out, there's space for something. And it's, pop culture is really, that is a zeitgeist. It is at an all-time frenetic high with a lot of goodwill and enthusiasm and motivation. So the next extension to pop culture is, in terms of content, being movies or video games, is our product, is merchandise. So they're clearing out essentially dead weight and bringing in things that people want, and it's a good time. I mean, whether there's 4 or 5 Marvel movies releasing every single year, 10 superhero movies a year, and then these sort of shows, these sort of pop culture events like Game of Thrones or Stranger Things, that really motivate collectors. So I think Target and Walmart definitely making the right moves for that. But it's really born out of obsolete, the deceased obsolete. I'm trusting you're probably not running out and buying CDs anymore.
No, it's funny you say that because I remember when Toys R Us was going under and everybody was like, Toys R Us and blah blah blah, and I said, listen, the first thing everybody jumps on is the easy target, which is blame Amazon, and I tell people, I'm like, listen, I've lived through Lionel Kitty City, KB Toys, they rise and they fall, and part of the reason is because their business practices were just, they didn't move ahead with the times, or they didn't adjust. And I think that Toys R Us was in a weird place where they were kind of set up to fail after they took out that big loan to restructure, and they were kind of on the hook repaying the loan and trying to stay relevant. And what ended up happening was, it wasn't just the Amazons of the world. They had to go and fight Target and fight Walmart and fight the mom and pops and fight Barnes and Noble. And at the end of the day, people are more educated now. People aren't going around just, we'll go and do all our Christmas shopping in Toys R Us and be done, Like, some people don't even want to leave their house, and that culture changes.
Well, yeah, I would say, Amazon's is a big obstacle there, because of that, just because of the convenience of shopping and clicking a couple buttons and having something arrive at your house in a couple of days if you have the patience for it. But the Toys R Us, is similar to Bain Capital and the KB thing. Is it was distressed. There's a lot of kooky things that went in and out of,
absolutely,
the guys taking a debt position and this, that, and the other. But the liquidable assets were, there was gains on liquidable assets for Toys R Us, undoubtedly. I think Toys R Us's biggest downfall is more the shopping experience. You walked in there, the people that worked there didn't know the products.
Nope.
They're sort of disinterested. They didn't want to be there to begin with. So it had to do a lot with training. The stores were just stuck in 1981.
100%.
It's just, as shopping experiences, as the experience, walking into an Apple store, going into Nordstrom's, and there's a coffee bar, and there's this and that. As shopping experiences have become more sort of competitive and advancing, the shopping experience with Toys R Us locations are always kind of in these crappy strip malls and things like
Yep.
that. It just wasn't a inviting experience. They're just
Nope.
people didn't want to go there. Essentially,
How
the
many
lighting was bad. The merchandising was bad. The floors looked like they're from 1981. All the high school kids that worked there, that was the last place on earth they wanted to be.
Yeah, well, that was exactly it. I knew, a couple of kids when I was in high school. They worked in Toys R Us, and they'd be like, "Man, you think it would be cool working in a toy store, man? Every day and playing with cool stuff and seeing cool stuff." And they were like, "It kind of sucks." like that was the exact answer that they came with. They were like, "It kind of sucks, man." And I'm like, "Why?" And they were just like, the way they do things, and they don't really put the stuff out, and they don't display the stuff for kids to really want to buy the stuff, and parents are miserable because they got to come in there and wander these aisles to try and find one thing. I mean, when I was in the heyday of collecting, I remember, I'd find one or two kids I was good with in Toys R Us. I'd be like, "Listen, man, I'm looking for these Chase figures, shoot me a text or page me, and let me know if you guys get them. There's a couple bucks in there for you." And they'd be like, "All right, man, I'm going to look through these boxes, and really this one's worth a lot of money." And I'm like, "Yeah, this one's this and whatever." And you kind of built a rapport, and it made them excited. Like, you'd walk in, "Hey dude, what's going on? Hey man, how's everything? Yeah, I got some stuff in the back. I'll be right back and bring a box out." It'd be a bunch of, Marvel Legends or whatever it was. And that stuff isn't there, and even now, like what you were saying, the retail experience is so much different. Like, now you go into a specialty store or a comic book store, and if you're there enough times, they know you. "Hey man, how's it going? I saw you here last week. I pulled this, I know you like this."
Yeah. Retail shopping is really, curated these days.
100%.
It is about the, being personal, and it's about being in really customizing experience. Like I said, if you go into a large retailer, like let's say Nordstrom's, I mean, they're doing everything shy of, dusting you off, combing your hair, putting a little cologne on you, and greeting you, and sticking a espresso in your mouth as you walk in the door.
Yep.
So if that's the high bar, it's just being a warehouse with classroom like lighting and stuff all over the aisles, and everything kind of mix matched, and
it was crazy, especially the real dingy ones.
That's really what did them. I feel like if they had when they had the chance to, they actually invest into the remodel and sort of the training, they should have taken that opportunity.
100%.
And it could, because in an actual standalone toy store, there is plenty of room in the market for that. As you can see, this last holiday, toy sales are pretty decent. I mean, action figures, some of that stuff is down, but there's still disruptors. LOL Surprise, Funko's a disruptor. There's things that are doing really well, and things are even going down to TJ Maxx and Marshalls and Ross. There's other people getting to the game, which does mean there's still a really valid reason for a standalone to exist. It just, they have to speak to all the potential customers in a very curated, customized way for it to stick.
I mean, it's not a price thing either. I always tell people all the time, listen, Apple sells some of the most expensive hardware in the game, but you have no problem plunking down $1,000 for an iPhone, because you know that if it breaks, you walk in there and they don't even waste time like trying to they'll diagnose it, and if they'll just be like, "Here's a new," because they don't care, they're Apple's at a stage where it's like the customer experience is crucial, and if we can make them feel good, it keeps them around. Even if we sell high, our customer support is high enough to match that.
Yeah, it's like sitting first class on a plane.
Yep.
You walk in the plane, they give you, orange juice, give you pajamas, slippers, the whole nine, make you feel like you're worth $1 million, even if you're worth $2. That's what you have to do to people at retail. You have to make everybody feel like everybody's got to be Brad Pitt. Once you walk in the door, everybody's got to be treated with that sort of with that curated sort of white glove experience for it to stick. Because as you're saying, the other motivation is just to watch Netflix and plug it away on your computer, and it'll be at your house in 2 days.
That's it. Now, one of the big things, and we mentioned it at the start of the interview, was the growth of your company now. This incredible partnership with Bandai. I want to touch on that a little bit. How long was that in the works? And, what made you, did Bandai come to you? Did you go to them? Like, what makes them the ideal partner for you guys?
Yeah, it's really funny. When we were opening factories in Asia, part of our prerequisite is, do you make Bandai products? Because the quality, the quality of tools, the tolerance levels on the tools, the labor operation quality, the assembly quality. It's AAA. So part of our requirement was for factories to also be in the Bandai game for us to join, because we knew we would get a great product that way. Knowing that Bandai's they're sticklers on the products too, so the factories understand complex deco, complex construction, these sort of like multi-skewed character assortments and Easter eggs, low production units, all these kind of the pain in the butt things that the Little Subjects really is for suppliers. If they're doing Bandai, they're accustomed to some of that. But so we'd always admired as, AAA sort of product quality, and, a really great figure form, and action figures were top notch, and the Tamashii offerings were some of the high art in the action figure market, if not the high art, SH Figure Arts, Tamashii. So we'd always been admirers of Bandai. And then opportunity had it, with the vacancy of Power Rangers to really let other brands sort of collaborate with Bandai and have Bandai, which is just a giant engine. They have a huge infrastructure, a big presence in Asia, a big marketing presence, a big sales presence. To find a company like Little Subjects that would need that sort of driver and engine from, a formidable infrastructure, who already had good creative and, it had great products, fan base, a growing fan base, and then retail space, and then also great slate of licenses. So it just kind of worked out. It was just the stars aligned, as they say.
Natural progression at that point.
Yeah.
You respected their work. You knew that they were going to be a quality partner, and it just fell into place, huh?
Yeah, it's sometimes, the stars align. You just get lucky. And things aligned where it seemed like a timing for like a Bandai and the Little Subjects partnership, and our strategic partnership of what we're doing was, timing couldn't have been better. It couldn't have been better for us, couldn't have been better for them to really drive a brand like the Little Subjects and create some critical growth. So, I have, just the magic that floats through the stars sometimes, and
I'm excited to see what you guys cook up. I'm looking forward to seeing what you guys have on display next month at Toy Fair.
It's gonna be cool.
I think that what you've done and how you've crafted this offshoot, this unique collectible but also play-worthy item is something that, and especially building it on your own, starting from the ground up, is just, it's a testament to hard work and just entrepreneurship. There's no better story than this, man. I think, I like and, as an 80s baby, I love all the licenses you guys got, Thundercats and old WWF and WWE stuff. Like, I remember when I first learned about your brand, it was at last year's Toy Fair, and I walked over and I'm like, holy cow, is that Macho Man? And it's like a little Macho Man, and I'm like, this is awesome. And, he was like holding, and like a little Roman Reigns holding a chair. And I'm
Totally.
like, this is awesome. And then as the rep at the booth was like, check out some of our stuff. And I'm like, wow, you guys had the Exorcist, ones out. And I'm like, this is pretty insane. And like Freddy Krueger in the nurse outfit, like there was so many unique figures. And I said to myself, wow, this is a group of guys that actually, they know their stuff. And they grab like elements from the films and TV shows, like little obscure things, like who would have thought, like we're going to make Freddy Krueger in the doctor scrubs, or we're going to do this or we're going to do that. Like it was just so cool seeing that originality and innovation when I got acquainted with your company last year, man. So, I'm glad you guys are taking it to the next level.
Right on, man. I mean, and that's really what the Little Subjects tries to focus on, is that, remember, we're custodians of the IP we license. So we want to tell a genuine story, and there are a lot of Easter eggs in these stories. There's critical movie moments, or a critical moment in animation, or a critical toy moment, or a critical comic book moment that might seem very nuanced and niche, but it had a lot of impact for people. So we want to tell that story succinctly, and we kind of want to do a deeper dive than just, staying on the surface and just trying, we're not in it to sell plastic by the pound and sticker slap. We're really trying to, what the action vinyl format should be is a storytelling vehicle, and allowing, collectors to recreate those stories, those magic moments in TV, comics, anime, movies, video game, whatever those moments are. We really want to deliver those sort of, reward the audience for paying attention moments. The other thing is there is a truth to it sort of being like, keys to the time machine. There is a nostalgia vehicle about the Little Subjects. It should, 100%. When you do see Motu and Thundercats, for sure, that should. If you've ever seen Ratatouille, there's a scene where the big food critic, the rat, cooks up this sort of, this sort of peasant food, delivers it to the food critic, and the first thing when the guy has the first sip of it,
it takes him back.
The first bite of it, it takes him back to when he's 10. And the comfort of his home and his mom and all these warm memories come back. That moment in that film is kind of hopefully what we provide a little bit of like, you see it and you're like, oh my God, I remember standing in KB Toys when I was 10. You just have that immediate flashback.
I mean, that happened for me only because, like, when I saw the WWE and WWF figures, I remembered, they did the LJN, and they had the thumb wrestlers. And you'd put your thumb in the back, and they were just all rubberized and stuff. And that's what it reminded me of, like the simplicity of that, like, oh man, this is kind of cool. And, for a little kid who kind of thinks, like Jason is cool or Freddy is cool, like they can do that, and have little interchange accessories. And it's crazy just because like interests have varied so much. And especially now, I just had my first child, and it's like, one of the first things I had her watch, I just put it on and she was mesmerized, was like the original 84 Transformers movie, because it was so vibrant and so colorful, and she was just glued watching it. And it's like, I get to share this with you. And for me, like I said, I still buy a lot of this stuff, mostly because I couldn't buy it when I was a kid, or because, like life was a little different back then. So seeing things like that, it puts it in front of a new generation. And I think the best part is the barrier of entry is so small. I mean, my wife's goddaughter, she carries a little backpack, and all that's in her backpack are little figures.
Yeah, exactly. The price of admission to participate is small. Yeah, and even though it doesn't matter, it's if someone's got $11-12, it's still $11 or $12. Yep. I mean, you buy a meal with that. It's still value. It's a real high value regardless. But what you try to do is, for that price of admission, you don't want it to be outrageous. You want it to be affordable, but you want it to be a high experience driver. So having,
Agreed.
A posable figure with, a great sculpted face and gestural abilities, and being able to sort of recreate these scenes and battles in the Little Subjects world or universe, everything makes sense. Like Freddy could battle the Red Ranger in our universe, and it's like, of course.
Yeah, it's like, why not?
yeah, and that's kind of that's the fun too. So yeah, it's for $12, we want to make sure that you're getting a lot of fun out of it, essentially. But you're right, that nostalgia vehicle, all those warm feels and memories, and it's important to people. It's also, it's like, there's everybody's slugging it out there.
No, 100%. It's rock'em sock'em robots out there.
Totally. And to be able to get a reprieve from it, and, let your imagination be a driver, and the the pains of the day, whatever it be, bills, bosses, whatever it is, to be able to kind of get into your imagination seat and find that sort of like childlike wonderment. It's, I think there's a tremendous value in that.
Out of all the licenses you guys have worked on so far, what's been your favorite to do?
Yeah, it's hard because every new thing is like my new baby. I spend so much time with every product and every stage of the product. I'm very hands-on on everything as far as the product development, and the creation of the product. So everything's like my new favorite thing. Like, I loved How to Train Your Dragon because I thought those figures were very beautiful. I thought the dragons were very beautiful.
Yep.
The Game of Thrones stuff is pretty awesome. It's going to be impressive. We have a 6-foot Night King in our booth at Toy Fair.
Oh man!
I also have a 5-foot He-Man riding Battle Cat in our booth too. So
I'll make sure to get plenty of photos of that.
Yeah, it's going to be quite a presentation. The Hot Wheels stuff is amazing. I think it to be true. I'd have to check with Mattel, but I think the only people that make Hot Wheels are Mattel and the Loyal Subjects. So our version of Hot Wheels, I think, are pretty magnificent. And obviously, like to be actually making Hot Wheels, like if you told me 10 years ago, I would make Transformers, G.I. Joe, Hot Wheels, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, Power Rangers, I'd say you're crazy.
Yeah, nobody. You'd be like, to think that I get to play in this sandbox at this stage of the game is like I said, it's a testament to hard work.
Yeah, totally. I used to have black hair.
Oh, I'm with you, brother. I'm with you. All right,
but so the Hot Wheels stuff is I'm very, very excited about that too. It's just cool. There's a natural marriage between Hot Wheels and our collectors, as is.
I got to try and grab. I want to get the Ren and Stimpy ones for myself. I grew up watching
those are killer, man. Yeah, we Ren and Stimpy. That was insane. The Rugrats came out just brilliant.
Yep, those were really nice, man. The Chucky you guys did, I was like, wow, that looks like straight out of ripped right out of the television. It was really cool.
Totally. Yeah, between the Rugrats and the Wild Thornberrys, the characters that we did on both those TV series, they were really good. Like, and the fact is, we maybe take too much credit for this. It's really the IP. It's the creators like Klasky Chupo. We're able to sort of like lease this great, brilliant creative. Do you know what I mean? Sometimes, I think the manufacturers have a tendency to take too much credit for what they do. It's like, at the end of the day, we didn't make up Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. We have an interpretation of it, but, we really have to thank, Kevin Eastman and Peter Laird.
Yeah, absolutely.
And believe it or not, actually toy Playmates, because Playmates did a lot of creative development and origination on it. But we get to inherit some of this, or lease this great creative, and what we try to do is we try to be genuine and true to that creative. That's what we try to do, obviously with our TLS fingerprint, but in the end, we're really trying to tell the story from an indigenous place. And so for the Rugrats, I think they came out really good because we stayed true to what Klasky Chupo created.
Yep. No, I think those are some beautiful pieces. All your Nickelodeon stuff is phenomenal. The horror movie stuff, like I said, is what got me to stop by the booth. So all of that stuff was cool. I want to switch gears and go into our our next section of the interview, the hot seat. Just rapid fire questions. Right off the top of your head, nothing crazy. So
yeah, go for it.
All right. So obviously, in this day and age, we run a lot of our companies through our mobile devices. How do you keep yourself plugged in? What do you use?
Wow. I'm really like not the most tech savvy person. I'm still pretty analog, I play drums and play guitar. So, believe it or not, an iPhone.
Okay. Which one are you an older gen one or a slightly newer one? Cause that's how it goes when people don't update often.
I think I'm like the 10X.
Nice. Yeah, not too bad.
But I'm not. But I'm the most formidable tech giant. Although I did hardwire a company I basically set up all the computer systems in our company, all of our file sharing, the whole thing. And if you asked me to do it again, I would begrudgingly figure it out again.
Nice. Do you do you do most of your company business through your phone, through your mobile device, or do you actually like sit in front of a laptop?
No, no. I have a desk at the office.
All right, very cool.
But I'm on 24/7, so I actually work like 3 shifts. My morning shift is coming through phone calls and action items. My afternoon to early evening shift is working with the employees and all the touch points that need attention. Later shift is trying to get through all of my emails, and then the last shift is really at the night, because that's when China is
right.
When our Asian teams are actually up. Yeah, so I kind of have this sort of round the clock schedule. So I have a consistent routine between a desktop, a laptop, and a phone.
How many employees do you guys have?
Worldwide now, it's a pretty small team, 12.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
When you turn on your phone in the morning, where's the first place you go?
Probably WhatsApp to see if there's. I do a lot of the communication on WhatsApp.
Okay.
Or not WhatsApp, sorry, WeChat with my Asia supply partners.
Oh, okay.
So I'll look to see if there's notifications there that probably need. If I wake up early enough, it's still time to catch them in Asia.
Nice.
And then I look at Instagram. I'm totally brain hacked like everybody else, and I try to track conversations that are happening. There's like 80 inbox messages on Instagram right now. I don't know how we're going to plow through them all. But
do you run the Instagram account yourself, or do you share that with your employees? Is that just straight you? Like if somebody messaged you on Instagram right now, like you said, out of that 80, are you responding or is someone responding?
It could be me. It could be Kimberly. It could, some other people that work for us. It could be any of us.
Gotcha. Okay.
Yeah. It's not always.
Okay. As a musician, what's playing in the background when you work?
Believe it or not, I encourage people to play more music. I mean, for me, I was kind of like a punk rock, hardcore kid growing up, but like I'm all about, Pink Floyd, Zeppelin, Beatles now. Even getting, to, the Chet Baker, Art Blakey, sort of Ray Charles, Willie Nelson kind of vibes too. I have a pretty diverse music listening.
Nice.
Sort of palette. So I listen to everything from Mozart to Bad Brains.
Nice. That keeps you in the zone. What's an item you've purchased for less than $100 that's made your life easier or more enjoyable?
My drumsticks.
Nice.
Yeah.
Very cool. Obviously we talk about the tech. We got to talk a little bit about toys. What was your favorite toy or collectible from your childhood?
Originally Han Solo, the Kenner.
Nice.
3 3/4 Kenner toy, and the Stormtrooper. Those are probably. I had Shogun Warrior when I was a kid. The ones with the rockets pop out of the fist.
Oh my God! Yeah. With
the little rollers, I loved that. I had a Battlestar Galactica Cylon plane. I loved that. I had my first GI Joe. This is a true story. So when I went to a school, my parents had to come pick us up. When they pick us up, we drive past Thrifty. Sometimes my dad would get us one of those 10-cent ice cream cones.
Right.
Well, they used to have a carousel near the ice cream cone, near the checkout, really, like a peg carousel that had Star Wars toys. 'Cause I was born in '74, so by '81, it was like a real, actual Empire Strikes Back, was now. You know what I mean? It was current at that time.
Right.
Hey, these are Empire Strikes Back toys because the property's current. So they would have a carousel, and I'd try to get, every now and then my dad would let me pick one out and get a character. One time, and this is at Thrifty, at some point in time, they switched the carousel out with G.I. Joe.
Oh, man.
And I was super, super bummed. I didn't know what G.I. Joe was. I was like, where's the Star Wars stuff? I was totally bummed. But I was like, okay. And I picked Major Blood off the peg. And then that got me started on G.I. Joe. And then I was really excited about G.I. Joe.
Nice.
But Major Blood was my first G.I. Joe character I ever got.
That's pretty awesome. The obviously besides your own collectibles, is there anything else you collect now outside of any TLS stuff you have in house?
Well, I have so much of that. I collect art, and I would say I collect music instruments, but
okay,
I just have music instruments. Like I have a few guitars and drums and things like that. Like a real collector would collect a lot of guitars, right?
Right.
I have a few guitars. We're a real drum collector. We collect a lot of drums. They're as enthusiastic about snare drums as Transformers are about every version of Optimus Prime. Well, I got a couple snare drums.
What's your favorite guitar out of the ones you own? What do you play the most?
My Les Paul Black Custom with the gold hardware.
Nice.
That's my favorite.
Notes. It's funny because when I tell people about toys and tech, they're like, oh, but what if I'm not into toys? I'm like, toys is in quotes, exactly that. Like you just said, you collect musical, you have, drum sets, guitars, those are your toys, in addition to all the other stuff,
I think you're right. I think for a lot of people, toys, I actually know a lot of, like I said, I know some of these other guys that own these other toy companies, some of them larger. Their toys are like Tesla.
Exactly. That's exactly it. And
that really is their toy.
100%. I did want to ask, and this is more so just a little open ended. Now that you guys have secured the Bandai, the Bandai partnership, where do you guys see yourselves, 12 months from now? Like, where would you like the company to be 12 months from now?
I think we see ourselves where we mapped out our goal. I think a growing presence at retail. We're doubling our releases this year, which is a lot, because we've been doing like 10 per year. So this is in different stages,
right.
Like, Comic-Con and things like that. So we've been about 10 per year. This year we're doubling it. We're increasing our license slate, and we're really looking to increase our shelf presence, open the tent up to more collectors, make it more accessible, but we still have all those crazy Easter eggs, Club 28s, all these crazy things that, are great little Willy Wonka tickets for the collectors. That still is totally intact. But yeah, we're really just looking to open the tent up and include more people in the conversation and to message out. I do write our blog, and it's embarrassing because I just have not written much because we've been so head down and building these programs and the things. So hopefully this year I get to open up and be more of that sort of consistent weekly voice. That would be ideal.
No, I think that's, the engagement that you guys have, even though obviously you're growing with the company, it's still very good compared to so many other companies that are out there, where it's like they put a post on Instagram and that's it. There's not as much engagement. Like I appreciate the work that you guys try to put in, especially with regards to trying to keep your fan base, engaged. It's huge, man.
Well, without them, there's no us, So it's like, we've never set up a company to have like a velvet rope. It's just, we're all one gang. We're one and the same. If our customers are on the same mission we are, of like, hey, this is cool. Let's do more. So we're trying to share the stage with them. We might be playing in the band, but we don't have a barricade with a bunch of bouncers in front. You're welcome to sit on stage with us.
Nice. I think that's a great segue into what we like to call the reach one, teach one moment. For somebody that's starting out just like you did, what would you tell them, if they were in your shoes now in 2019?
You just listen to your heart, listen to your gut. and follow what you want to do. It's, I don't think there's any bit of advice or a mechanic or a structure that can help someone be more successful or less successful. I think, having a tremendous will, having a very hard work ethic, and learning from your mistakes, and being humble, and that will lead you to the right place, and following your vision, whatever it is. If you want to be the best fisherman in the world, whatever, follow it.
That is a perfect way to do it. Well, Jonathan, yep. I truly appreciate you taking time out to share the toys and tech of your trade. We look forward to seeing you at a toy fair next month.
Right on, man. I'll see you there. I'll be somewhere around the 6 foot Night King.
You got it.
All right. Thanks, man. I appreciate it.
All right. That wraps our interview with Jonathan Cathey from The Loyal Subjects. To find out more about The Loyal Subjects and some of the stuff that Jonathan and I talked about in this episode, make sure to check the links in the show notes. As always, for transparency, some of those links may be affiliate links where your purchases allow us to receive a small commission, which we apply to giving you better listening experiences, better video, better audio, better everything for RageWorks and all of its shows. So definitely try and make your purchases through the affiliate links if possible. We would really, really appreciate it. Also, if you're listening to the show on iTunes or Overcast or any of the other major podcast partners or websites, make sure to leave us a review. We would really, really appreciate it. Last but not least, if you are interested in being a guest on a future episode of Toys and Tech of the Trade, shoot me an email, rich@rageworks.net, or use the contact form on the site. If you just want to keep up with RageWorks and everything we do, you can find us on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook. Our biggest engagement usually is on Facebook via our Facebook group. You could just look up RageWorks, or via Instagram. We do use Twitter, but it's usually me running the account, and I usually just share our posts there with some engagement here and there. Definitely trying to up the ante in that department, but you guys know how it is. All right. Thank you guys for checking out the latest episode of Toys and Tech of the Trade. We'll see you guys in 2 weeks. Thanks for listening. Peace.